back in business if they could use wood to produce biofuels. And that's something that we should invest in. Many of these clean energy technologies, including the solar panels being used over Stonyfield farms, are being developed in research labs and facilities all across America at this very moment. The problem is, they might never get further than that. U.S. venture capital does a great job investing in research and development, but we don't do enough to take risk out of bringing the new discoveries into the wider marketplace. This will change when I'm president. I will launch a clean technologies venture capital fund that will provide $10 billion a year for 5 years to get the most promising clean energy technologies off the ground. This venture capital fund will get new technologies from the lab into the marketplace so that in the next few years, the American economy can benefit from America's innovations. The third step in my plan is to call on businesses, government, and the American people to make America 50% more energy efficient by 2030. This is by far the fastest, easiest, and cheapest way to curb our emissions and save money at the same time. This is a place where businesses like Stonyfield and towns like Keene have led, and there's no reason why the rest of America can't do the same. Finally, there is one last step I will take as soon as possible. From the moment I take office, I will let it be known that the United States of America is ready to lead again, that we are ready to rejoin the community of nations in taking on the greatest challenge of this generation. I will personally reach out to the leaders of the biggest carbon-emitting nations and ask them to join America in creating a new global energy forum that will lay the foundation for the next generation of climate protocols. I will be in constant contact with these leaders to develop concrete, feasible emissions targets that all of us will meet. Now, doing all of this won't be easy. It won't come without cost or without sacrifice, and if anyone tells you otherwise, then they're not telling you the truth. They're either fooling themselves or they're trying to fool you. The truth is, developing the next generation of energy and becoming a global leader on climate change will be one of the greatest challenges that we've ever faced together as Americans. I will set big goals for this country as president, so some goals that will be so large that the technology to reach them doesn't even exist yet. But keep in mind that hasn't stopped us before. When President Roosevelt's advisors advised him that his goals for wartime production were impossible to meet, he waved them off and said, "Believe me, the production people can do it if they really try." And they did. When the scientists and engineers told John F. Kennedy that they had no idea how to put a man on the moon, he told them they would find a way. And they found one. I believe we will again. I believe we're ready to turn the page on the politics of caution. I believe we're ready to turn the page on the politics of expediency. I'm not running for president to do what's easy, but to do what's right. And what's right is uniting this country around a bold plan to combat this crisis of climate change once and for all. And I hope all of you will join me in that great endeavor. Thank you. Thank you. I am getting over a little bit of a cold, so occasionally I'm going to grab some water in a second. But I want to take some questions. Do we have any mics in the audience? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We do? We've got a couple, so that way I won't have to repeat the question. Young lady right there with the sunglasses. Go ahead.
Yes.
Why don't you grab the mic?
Good morning. My question was about science and technology and how you would promote that in keeping us more competitive in the global competition of science and technology today, and how that relates to the energy as well.
I think it's a great question. In this new global market, the success of our economy and our people is going to almost entirely depend on how skilled we are. And we used to own science, technology, research, and development. We have been slipping relative to the rest of the world, and we've got to do something about it. There are a couple things we can do. Number one, we've got to start early with our K through 12 education system. And that means that we're investing more in early childhood education so our kids are prepared for school. It means paying our teachers more and giving them more professional development and working with them and not against them to raise standards in the schools. It means making sure that federal standards like No Child Left Behind are completely modified so that they're not discouraging science and they're not discouraging innovation and they're not discouraging the applied knowledge that sparks the imagination of kids. It means that we've got to make college more affordable. And one of the things that we need are more science and math teachers in the elementary and secondary schools. But the problem is that we're not recruiting those best and brightest kids to go into that because it pays so low. And they're too burdened with debt. So one of the things I'd like to see is a national service program that says to young people, if you are majoring in math and science and you want to go into teaching, we will not only knock off some of your debt, but we'll pay you a bonus to go into these schools that need help, especially schools that are chronically underperforming. So that's on the education side. We then have to increase our basic investment in research and development. And this administration, which has had a profound anti-science bias, has flatlined funding for basic science and basic research. And what that means is an effective decline when you include inflation. Now that causes two problems. Number one, we're not investing in the new discoveries that can lead to new technologies and economic growth. But the other thing is that those basic grants in research are what develop the new generation of scientists. And if we're funding less research, that means that there are less people who can go into the sciences. And so we're falling behind in terms of the number of scientists and researchers that we have. So I want to at least double our investment in basic science and research. And how this fits into energy, when you think about the baby boom generation, we had a huge spike in the number of scientists and engineers because they were inspired by a big project. You know, the space program inspired an entire generation to go into math and science and technology. Now those baby boomers are starting to retire. And we need another big project around which we can rally the country and make young people interested in science and technology again. And finding clean, renewable sources of energy and creating a green economy is an enormous opportunity for us to use those basic research dollars that I just referred to, $150 billion into that research, to recruit new people to go into it. So this is one of those areas where not only can we solve the environmental problem, but if we do it right, it can be an enormous boost to our economy over the long term, and it can have all sorts of spin-off effects that will improve our quality of life as well. All right, great question. Why don't you wait for the microphone here? Go ahead.
I probably don't need it.
You're right. You're right.
I really don't need it.
Go ahead. What's your name?
You can do next week.
What's your name, sir?
My name is John Mendelowski.
Good to see you, John.
I'm with the Alliance for Italian Americans.
There you go.
One of the problems that we face here is loss of jobs, immigration. Next week, there will be a vote on including Peru under NAFTA. I understand that you're favoring including Peru.